So 5 children have died after allegedly consuming snacks from a Spaza shop over the weekend in Soweto. The kids aged between 6 and 10 were rushed to hospital after displaying symptoms of vomiting. Community members closed the Spaza shop located in Naledi in Soweto while police are investigating the deaths of the 5 children. Well, to better understand the potential causes, let's bring in food safety and public health specialist from ASC Consultants, Mthokozisi Nkosi. We also will speak to Spaza of the South African Spaza and Tuck Shop Association. But Mthokozisi, good morning to you. We are running this also on our poll, right? And go ahead and scan that QR code as it comes up on the screen. We're asking, how would you describe the quality of food sold in Spaza shops? Once that QR code does come up, go ahead and vote in that poll. Really keen to hear what you think of this discussion. But Mthokozisi, as we start off, I mean, what you make of the story. There is, of course, the question around whether or not food safety and public health specialists, such as yourselves, conduct these health checks in Spaza shops in our township communities. When was the last time you've seen that happen effectively?
Thank you, Naledi. Thank you for having me, and my sincere condolences to the families that were affected by this tragic incident. Yes, I think perhaps the starting point is to just emphasize how big of a problem this has become, particularly in Gauteng. If you look at the statistics by the Department of Gauteng themselves that they have reported last month already, is that over 200 children have been affected by cases of food safety since February 2024. That is massive, particularly in the townships. And this problem occurs everywhere. It's in Gauteng, it's in the Eastern Cape. I just said perhaps Gauteng has been very good in terms of recording the numbers. So it is a big issue that we are facing, as particularly in the informal sector, as well as to an extent the formal sector. And then you are speaking about the inspections that are being conducted in these shops.
Right.
That is primarily a government responsibility, especially at municipal level, through the Department of Environmental Health or the environmental health practitioners that are supposed to do that. But in terms of effectiveness of conducting those inspections and making sure that before granting a food permit, those people follow the right protocols, that begs a question whether that is being done as per the requirements of the law.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, of course, are those checks being done? I'm going to bring in Spaza Nkosi, who's Deputy Secretary and Head of Business Development at the South Africa Spaza and Tuck Shop Association. Spaza, good morning to you. I know that you are in Naledi at the moment. I suspect that you had intended to speak to us from this particular Spaza shop where these children had bought their snacks. Talk to us about what you understand had gone on in this particular incident that led to 5 children losing their lives and one 7-year-old now fighting for their little life.
Good morning, Naledi, and good morning to the viewers. Thank you for this platform. Right now, we have been around the area of Naledi. We are actually at the school where 3 of the kids have passed away, which is a Karabo Primary School right behind me. Most of the tuck shops have closed down. So we decided just to come here to the school and just show the severity of the problem. It's clear that the government has not taken us to account. Our calls have been on deaf ears. If you realize that this thing is now becoming like a pandemic, so what do we do when we call on to the government and the government does not respond to us? As you can see, these are the children. These children are our future.
Yeah, but I need to ask you this, Spaza, because you're saying...
I'm at the school.
Let me just hear me out here, Spaza, and certainly you can show us the school. But
okay.
Here's my question, because you're saying government has a responsibility here. Please don't show the children, because remember, we don't have permission for that. But
I'm sorry, Popia.
Yeah, so this is now the issue, right? The doctors that attended to these children at different health facilities suspected rat poison may have been consumed by these children. Now, I understand that in township communities, you would have, vermin and rats, perhaps a big problem, and then needing to start a business at the same time. So What is the responsibility of your association then for food to be kept clean and safe to ensure that children don't end up consuming what some is suspecting is now rat poison?
Okay. Our responsibility as the Association for Spaza Shop is to regulate, to empower the local Spaza Shop people. But then it's apparent that most of the tax shops that are now operating in our townships are foreign national owned. They keep cats in stores so that they can control the rats. So it might have happened that one of the measures to prevent from rats from eating their stocks, it polluted the stock or poisoned the stock. If it's found that the poisoning is from rat poisoning, so our job is to make sure that the food is safe for the environment. The people are playing their role. The Spaza shops are playing their role, and everyone is in a safe environment. We are lobbying with the health and safety department that to ensure, but it's clear that if all our efforts in regulating and making sure that the Spaza shops are food, there's food security, the Spaza shops are safe for consumers to buy, have not been heard. We are now doing an effort with the private sector to try and eradicate this problem by localizing and speaking to brands. Particularly Retail Engage has been our partner, our technology partner in assisting us to revolutionize this industry and bring back locals who will actually be compliant. Because the problem is that foreign nationals are not compliant. They are not willing to be compliant. There is nothing that is being done to make them compliant. Even now in Naledi, as right where we are, some businesses are operating and it's business as usual, in spite of a big incident that has just happened of 5 children losing their lives.
I'm wondering, though, just this issue of food safety, if it really is about foreign nationals, and perhaps, Mthokozisi, I'll bring you in here, because, again, Musiso saying that stores that are run by foreign nationals do not want to be compliant. Is this about foreign nationals, or is it just about compliance in our Spaza shops, in townships across the board, whether locally owned or owned by foreign nationals?
Yes, definitely. I wouldn't want to say that it's particularly a foreign national issue. There are laws in this country, and unfortunately, when it comes to townships, even in the formal sector, somehow the practices that are practiced, the food safety practices that are expected, are not practiced as expected in suburban areas. A starting point is there is a requirement by law that any person who starts a food business must get a certificate of acceptability. And for you to get that certificate of acceptability, you must receive accredited food safety training so that you understand the risk that the food can pose to consumers, and then you can put correct control measures to prevent such incidents. And part of them is pest control. That is one of the critical areas that the regulation focuses on, because it realizes the importance of ensuring that pests are controlled because of diseases they carry, and also the nature of the poison that is being utilized. And you cannot just have anyone handling that poison. It must be a registered pest control operator who does that. When you go to township, generally, anything happens there. No one actually stands back and looks at the food safety risks that are being posed, whether it is a foreign owned Spaza shop or a Spaza shop that is owned by a South African national. It has just been accepted that food safety is not so much important in the township, and unfortunately, it ends up affecting the most vulnerable of people in our communities, which is children and the elderly. So I wouldn't say that it is a matter of foreign-owned. It could be because they now dominate the informal sector in the township, but it is not necessarily a clear-cut, at least in my experience, that is.
The reality is lives are lost, and so someone's failing and someone needs to come to the party. And Mthokozisi, so I'm going to stay with you. Who needs to step up? Who needs to account to the 5 families that are now mourning their children?
Okay. Firstly, the person in charge of those food premises. The person in charge of those food premises, as they need to account, because they've got a responsibility, and the regulation is very clear. Should you decide to start a food business, you are in charge of the consumer safety, and you yourself, or you must capacitate yourself to know the risk. Secondly, government. The question is, how do we allow so many of these shops to spread without making sure that they follow the right protocol and get the certificate of acceptability? And as an inspector, you check whether they've got the right, they have got received the training, they have pest control measures, and they follow the practices as expected by law. And if you look at the statistics that are being provided, the recommendation of the health inspectors is 1 to a 10,000 community. But if you find in South Africa, most cities, and also in Gauteng, it's 1 to 45,000, and sometimes it go to 55,000 per people. And you wonder, when are they going to do these inspections? When are they going to do the controls that are necessary to keep consumers safe? So in my opinion, the person in charge of food premises, the Department of Health needs to step up. The NCC, which is falls under the Department of Trade and Industry, as well as us as communities, it is time that we demand that the shops that are supplying us, they are able to produce a food permit, and they are supposed to display it prominently. So as communities ourselves, we are supposed to educate ourselves, because we are putting our lives at risk.
Yeah, it reminds me of the discussion around how we boost township economies, but how do you do that without some process of formalizing things? But Sibusiso, I'm going to let you have the last bite here. What should happen next? What role is the South African Spaza and Tuck Shop Association going to play? I mean, you mentioned how some businesses in Naledi right now have closed down. Eventually, they're going to open up and business will continue as usual. What would have changed? What should happen now, Sibusiso?
Thank you. It's very sad that it will be business as usual as early as from tomorrow, even before the kids are buried. I think as the South African Spaza and Tuck Shop Association, we will now run a program on trying to assist the government in trying to regulate these shops in terms of food security. As from tomorrow, we'll be starting this program. We are hoping that we'll get assistance and we'll get support, the required support that we need, so that we can get all these puzzle shops that are operating in and around Soweto to be compliant, to have the certificate of acceptability, because that also has been a big problem. Because when you go to this government facilities, you find that the shops do not have even the documentation so that they can apply for the letter of acceptability, the acceptability.
Yeah.
So we are trying to engage in. We're going to engage in that from tomorrow to see that the shops that are not regulated, that do not have a letter of acceptability, are stopped and prohibited from trading. Even if we request assistance from JMPD and all the law enforcement to help us to get this done, because we cannot continue having debts as if it's normal.
Yeah. Sibusiso Nkosi, Deputy Secretary and Head of Business Development at the South African Spaza and Tuck Shop Association, thank you so much for your time. And Mthokozisi Nkosi, Food Safety and Public Health Specialist with ASC Consultants, is speaking to us about that story. And of course saying stakeholders really need to step it up. But for 5 families in Naledi, in Soweto, it's too late.